What's up, you goddamn plebeians? Neil with the Balding Plebs, and I'm joined here by my brother, Mr. fucking YouTube.
Fucking YouTube, baby.
Are we leaving this to the professionals?
We're leaving it to the professionals.
Anyway, we're checking out a hands-off preview from IGN today.
For Elden Ring, guys, can you imagine this? Look at this 3-month stretch. Dying Light 2, Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, shaping up to end 2021 and move into 2022 as one of the strongest 3-month periods in recent memory for gaming. We are so excited.
Speaking of strong periods, just kidding. Let's watch.
I'm very excited for this.
Oh, that's right. They call him Tarnished now.
When I interviewed Hidetaka Miyazaki back in June about Elden Ring, one of the things that really stuck out to me was how many of his answers came back around to this core theme of Elden Ring being all about freedom and choice. Having now watched about 15 minutes of gameplay from a variety of sections of the game, I now fully get what Miyazaki was saying, and how Elden Ring offers more options and flexibility than anything From Software has worked on in the past.
And to be fair, the Souls series was pretty open. There's a lot of different ways you can do it.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see.
We don't have any new B-roll to show you, but
What?
the gameplay demo opened up with a look at Elden Ring's first open field, which spread out in every direction with a number of easily visible points of interest. To the left was a small watchtower, far off in the distance straight ahead was the gigantic glowing air tree, and just in front was a site of Lost Grace, which will serve as the game's bonfire checkpoints.
Oh,
But
nice.
what's interesting about them is that some will cause a light to lead the way towards a recommended path. Of course, it's up to you whether you actually follow that path or not. One of
Nice.
my takeaways from watching the open field gameplay was this feeling that you can encounter almost anything while exploring. In one section, the player approached a group of enemies gathered around a campfire when all of a sudden a gigantic dragon swooped down in typical Souls fashion and took them all out in a single blow, which then prompted a massive boss fight. In another section,
I like shit like that,
massive
dude.
enemies walking along a trail
Neat.
escorting a giant carriage that could presumably be attacked and robbed of its contents, should you be skilled enough to survive the fight. In a different area, there was another carriage that was guarded, but this time by a large encampment of enemies that the person playing carefully snuck around without alerting the whole camp, even going as
neat.
far as using a sleep arrow to silently pacify a guard. Of course, in order to navigate around such an open
See, dude,
field,
that's shit that I always thought was missing from the Souls series.
utilize special jump platforms to leap over
That's really
cliffs,
neat.
allowing for a ton of verticality.
That
in the
is
open world
awesome.
design.
We love
big
that.
departure from previous Souls games, though one that makes sense in a world as massive as the lands between, is that you'll now have access to a map. This isn't the actual map, I just pulled this from Getty Images, but imagine it looks something like this. The map gets updated by finding map fragments throughout the world and has the look of an actual illustrated parchment made by a cartographer who lives in the lands between.
Oh, that's
I
neat.
like that.
That's
Markers
cool.
denote locations of tough enemies, NPCs, treasures, or dungeon entrances. As you'd expect, marked locations also place a beacon that's easily visible in-game, allowing you to set your own waypoints when you're looking for places to go next.
I like
Nice.
that.
Dungeons can
Yeah.
be found throughout the open field, and of course, they're full of enemies, traps, treasures, and even illusory walls.
So maybe a little Skyrim-esque in that.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Multiple
that. Yeah.
Design, with a room that featured a bunch of guillotine traps, and then a treasure room that was guarded by a handful of enemies ready to pounce on you when you went for the treasure. But since the gameplay I watched was cut up and segmented, I never really got a feel for how big or substantial these dungeons really are. The Legacy Dungeon, however, I did get a feel for, and it felt massive. Legacy Dungeons are the main attraction of each of the 6 areas of the lands between, and I got to see the first of them, Stormveil Castle. This particular Legacy
neat.
Dungeon begins with a choice. You can either head through the main gate and suffer through an intensely challenging route of enemies, all aware of your presence, or you can sneak around the side through a secret entrance that takes you along a lesser guarded but still very dangerous path with narrow walkways that will punish one errant dodge roll with a fall to your death. Stormveil Castle definitely brought to mind comparisons to the Boletarian Palace from Demon's Souls,
Yes.
right down to a section lined with explosive barrels and an enemy looking to ignite them all with an explosion of their own. Moments like these felt more like homage than anything else, though. And what really stuck out to me more than anything else was how enticing exploration felt with all the various paths that were left unexplored
Good.
by hands-off demonstration. Way off in the distance was a house by its lonesome on a narrow cliff that had me wondering how I could get to it. When the player looked back towards the cliffside, I saw all sorts of unexplored platforms and shinies, and with the ability to freely jump, I constantly wondered if I could jump across certain gaps and find something on the other side. I was told that the Legacy Dungeons were built with this kind of freedom in mind, and that they were designed to be complex and multi-layered, which is exactly what I had hoped to hear.
Nice.
The dungeon capped
Very
off
cool.
with the player reaching a rooftop that oversaw the main path that the player could have taken if they went through the main gate and fought through that army that awaited them. Since the enemies were unaware of their presence, the player was able to use a sleep arrow to incapacitate the giant beast guarding the boss door and make it through undetected. Finally, I got a little tease of the boss fight against the giant multi-armed lord from the trailer, and it was about the soulsiest boss they could have possibly shown, with gigantic sweeping attacks, earth-shattering slams, counterattacks that come out while it reels from being hit, and eventually a second form with a transformed dragon arm that spewed fire and had an unblockable grab that just roasted the poor player. It looked absolutely brutal, and I can't wait to try it myself.
Awesome.
Back to the theme of player choice, all throughout the presentation, I was reminded just how much freedom and choice was
Looks
offered
like an
to the
epic
player.
fight,
The
damn.
freedom to go any direction right from the start in the open field. The freedom to engage or not engage the passive roaming enemies. The choice of whether to run or fight from the dragon when it swooped down. The choice of stealth or reckless violence when attacking the enemy camp. And the choice of whether to go through the main or side entrance in the Legacy dungeon. None of this is all that new in the world of open world RPGs, but in a From Software action RPG, it's certainly an unprecedented level of choice on top of the already existing customization of builds, weapons, and magic. With every new bit of Elden Ring I see, the weight becomes increasingly more difficult to bear. But bear it I will, as Elden Ring is planned for release on January 21st, 2022. Thanks for watching, and for more Elden
Awesome.
Ring,
What a way to kick off 2022, guys. Holy shit. And you know, basically you're getting an open world Dark Souls.
More open.
You know, I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah. I love, first of all, I love the character design. I like some of the weapons
I
designs.
love the
we're
enemy
seeing.
design.
I do, yep. And I really like some of like the vistas we're seeing and the environments we're seeing. This is freaking awesome, dude.
So it's like take some Sekiro, take some Horizon Zero Dawn, take some Dark Souls, put them up in a little thing, shake them up, and pour them out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're getting.
It's awesome.
And I'm seeing 4-player co-op in this as well. Some form of like, you know, host-centered, and then other players can join up to 4 players, and you can like, I don't know if it's like actually a party system, but like there's ways like you can kind of group up and go together.
Nice.
That really is enticing to me too.
Nice,
So,
nice.
I mean, what I'm hearing about this, what we're seeing, what we're listening to here sounds so freaking awesome.
Yeah, it
And I mean,
does.
what better way to start 2022 and kick off what we need to be a great year? Because 2021 hasn't been that great for games.
Not really.
We're all just sitting here kind of, everybody's like, the most exciting thing happening is all these remasters.
Yeah.
You know? So, this just looks incredible.
Yeah, I liked what I saw. I liked the details we were given, you know, in the preview here and in the breakdown and everything. And this is, it's exciting. Like, I really like this. This is
You know, hiding in the bushes like that, that reminds me a lot of like Ghost of Tsushima or Sekiro did that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So you can definitely see inspirations from Sekiro and from like the Souls series and everything coming together, and this is very cool.
This verticality looks amazing. Letting you jump up cliffs.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. But I'm willing to accept it.
Yep.
Anything, you know, if it makes traversal easier. I like the fact that we're getting a map. I do like that.
Yeah, me too.
You know, that tells me that you're going to have a more expansive world, right? Like, after a few hours in, like, the original Dark Souls games, you kind of had a pretty good vision. And then once you got into, like, Dark Souls 2 and 3, they were all pretty segmented because you could just fast travel at all times. But that first game, you kind of had to learn your way around, right? And you used your Firelink Shrine as your base point, and then everything kind of wrapped around from there. But you had to learn that.
For sure.
So, and that was when you look at Dark Souls, the original game, it felt big, but it was a very small
It actually isn't
space
that large.
because you could, I mean, everything just branched out. It's almost like a tree trunk with like little bits of branches coming out of it.
Yep.
And that's really what it was. So if they're going for a more expansive world here, I'm really glad that they're putting a map in. I think that's really great. Hopefully there's some form of fast travel in there too. If it's a super large world, we're going to want to see that. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that.
For sure. For sure. You know, I want to get the Plebs thoughts on Elden Ring. I want to see what they thought about
Come on, guys, you've got to be excited.
what
for
we
this.
heard here from IGN, and of course, you know, some things that we saw in the video here, and some things that we've seen coming out here in the recent months. And of course, are you excited for the release? Give us your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed this reaction. We'll see you right here next time.
Probably my most anticipated game of the next year. I hope it lives up to the expectations. So very, very excited for this. You're welcome,
GG
please.
Plebs.